What's up, Nothing Burgers? It is day 2 of the Donald Trump administration, part 2, and we are already about to unpack some major brazen crimes from the 47th president of the United States. And guys, if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to talk about an additional crime, perhaps the most brazen crime, and nobody in mainstream media is talking about it. But first, we have to get through the laundry list of just downright terrible, atrocious, horrible, no good, very bad executive orders signed by Donald Trump. For whatever reason, guys, my personal preference when I'm referencing mainstream media over something like this is to go with the Brits. Go across the pond, get some level headed analysis from people who don't have quite as much skin in the game. I don't know if that's a good or a bad idea. It's kind of a pick your poison when you're dealing with mainstream media, but that's why I choose the BBC or the Guardian or things like that when I'm analyzing things with you guys on the Nothing Burger. They're also not paywalled if anybody's curious. So let's dive right in. Boom. Right off the bat, we've got Donald Trump signing what we knew he would do, just brazenly racist, unconstitutional, just un-American, frankly, border policy. Let's read. National emergency. Trump has proclaimed that the American sovereignty is under attack, declaring this to be a national emergency that allows him to free up more funding to reinforce the border with Mexico. The same directive tells officials to relaunch efforts to build a border wall with Mexico that was started under his first presidency. This is not an executive order, and it is unclear how such an effort might be funded. Basically, what he's doing right in is he's saying, I'm declaring a state of emergency. I want to free up any and all funds that I can access within my powers of the presidency. And instead of utilizing them properly and utilizing them to say, hey, I want to help out with what's happening in California. I want to help out with what's happening in North Carolina as they continue to recover from a devastating hurricane. I want to continue to assist with, areas that are impacted by extreme cold weather. Whatever the correct utilization of those funds may be, he's going to use them to build his border wall. He's going to use them to give raises to ICE agents. He's going to use that funding to create fear, and he's going to use it to lead to more deportation of our neighbors, guys. So we have to stay vigilant. Let's read on. Closing the border. The president has told the military to seal the borders. Okay, so he's relying on the military now, which is absolutely insane, citing the flow of illicit drugs, human smuggling, and crime relating to crossings. This one right here, the birthright citizen, 100% illegal, 100% unconstitutional, 100% immoral. Okay. Do you know how crazy it is? I was sitting with my partner last night. She was born in America. Okay. Her parents are American citizens. They happen to immigrate here from the Philippines. And she was like, under this law, I don't think I would technically be an American citizen. It was absolutely crazy. It's criminal. It's brazen. It's beyond the pale. Trump has ordered that officials deny the right to citizenship to children of migrants either in the US illegally or on temporary visas. But the 14th Amendment to the Constitution has long been interpreted to enshrine that right. And Trump's order was immediately challenged in federal court, which absolutely will be challenged, guys. The fear is that he stacked the justice system with all of these right wing lunatics, these radical, anti immigrant, racist, white supremacist, evangelical justices that are going to just do whatever he says, right? He's already stacked all the way up to the Supreme Court. Guys, he's going to likely get another Supreme Court pick as a result of this presidency, almost certainly, without a doubt. In addition, so that's the real fear here. Of course, it's against the law. Of course, it's brazenly unconstitutional. Of course, it's just wrong. But unfortunately, at this stage in the game, that might not be enough to stop him. And again, we've always had the policy in this country. One of the few good things about this country, right, is that at one point in the past, we enshrined in the Constitution that if you were born on this soil, you were as American as anyone else. Of course, there were some hiccups along the way. We had to fight for a lot of people's rights. We're still fighting for a lot of people's rights, but the idea was there. It was enshrined in the Constitution in the 14th Amendment, technically the Bill of Rights, I think, right? So the fact that Donald Trump is on day one coming for that shows you how brazen he is going to be, shows you how he's lawless, guys. He's not going to be reeled in by any of this. So we've got to keep reading, but I really wanted to highlight the birthright citizenship thing because that's going to impact so many people, right? So many individuals who, when their parents came here, right, if they were on a visa or if they were, traveling through the country and they had a child and they were like, wow, like I need to stay in this country now. That child might not be an American citizen. It's absolutely insane to think about. It's nuts. It goes against the grain of everything we've ever been taught it means to be an American. And we cannot allow the Republican Party, this anti American fascist party, to redefine what it is to be an American. Okay. We have to reclaim that because we know what the real values of this country are, even if we're still fighting for them. Right. Terrorism designation for gangs and cartels. Trump has designated drug cartels and international gangs as foreign terrorist organization, adding the likes of Salvadoran gang MS-13 to a list, and that includes the so-called Islamic State. So that's ISIS. When he says the MS-13 gangs, that's crazy that he's bothering with that. One, El Salvador is so far from here. Two, El Salvador is doing like a ridiculous pro cop crackdown. I mean, they are doing draconian measures to crack down on gang activity there, and there's no other opportunity there. So obviously, it's a fucking snake eating itself. They're just punishing these poor people because they don't have any other opportunities. And of course, as a result of that, they go and join a gang. But why is Donald Trump doing this? Donald Trump wants them to be assigned as a terrorist organization, one, to free up more money for his wall, free up more money for his anti-immigration policy, but he also doesn't want to have to give these people any fucking rights when it comes to the court system, when it comes to how he deals or negotiates with them. One of the things that happened under the George Bush administration that people don't talk about enough is that if they accuse you of doing terrorist activity, and that doesn't matter if it's, foreign terrorist activity, that doesn't matter if they call it eco-terrorism, it doesn't matter. They use it as a catch-all blanket to strip you of your rights, to strip you of habeas corpus, to strip you of all your fundamental American constitutional rights. They're trying to limit who those rights apply to. And what do we know about rights? Rights are supposed to be applied equally to everyone. Okay, this is the rollback. This is the really scary stuff of the second Donald Trump administration. It's why it makes me want to pull my hair out, frankly, when there are so many people who are like, look at how base Donald Trump is being. It's like, no, unfortunately, because of bad strategy and the clumsiness of the Joe Biden administration and the just piss poor governance of the Joe Biden administration, frankly. Of course, he's just a disastrous president. There's no other way about it. He produced another Donald Trump term. That doesn't happen to a healthy country. We have to understand that. But it teed up a bunch of wins that Donald Trump could claim immediately. Oh, I brought back TikTok. Like, oh, I'm going to make sure that there's a ceasefire, even though it'll probably only last for a month, which is great. Any pause to the suffering is great, but it's something that Joe Biden could have done a long time ago, and it would have never set up a situation where Donald Trump could take credit for that. You also have the fact that Donald Trump is about to inherit a lot of the infrastructure benefits that Joe Biden laid with his paltry, insufficient infrastructure bill, but an infrastructure bill nonetheless. Anyway, we've got a lot to talk about, so let's keep going. I'm sorry to get off on that diatribe, but it's early in the Trump administration. I'm really worked up, and we just have to make sure that we stay level-headed and we stay informed. Anyway, remain in Mexico and no more quote unquote catch and release. Trump has implemented his remain in Mexico policy from his first term. This returned about 70,000 non-Mexican asylum seekers across the border to wait hearings before being canceled by Joe Biden. The same order demands the end of catch and release, a policy that allows migrants to live in U.S. communities while they await their hearings. Trump has previously promised the largest deportation program in American history, but this could face legal and logistical challenges. The order also shut down a major Biden era immigration pipeline, a sponsorship initiative that allowed up to 30,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to fly to the US. It had been designed to cut illegal crossings. Yeah, see, what they're trying to do, guys, is they're not only trying to stop illegal immigration, as we're seeing right here, they're also trying to stop legal immigration. If you tune into the Vanguard next week, we're trying to book a guest to speak specifically about Caribbean immigration to the United States. They're very plugged into the Haitian diaspora in Boston, and they're going to do a good, they're going to come on and join us for a good conversation about how Trump has really created a lot of fear and uncertainty for those communities in just a gross and despicable way. Death penalty for some immigrant criminals. That's crazy. Trump has ordered the federal death penalty be reinstated. Executions have not happened in recent years. It would apply to any capital crime committed by an alien illegally present in this country and anyone convicted of murdering a law enforcement officer. This is crazy shit, guys. This is taking us back 200, 300 years in human rights. It's absolutely despicable. Refugee resettlement. Trump has suspended the U.S. refugee resettlement program, though details remain unclear. Whew, and that's just immigration. Oh my gosh, my stomach is sick after reading that, and it's just immigration. Now we have to read about climate change. Okay, everybody, buckle up because we've got more. He pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement again. Trump has signed off on withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement, the landmark international deal to limit rising global temperatures. He will have to wait a year before it happens. He previously withdrew in 2017 before Biden re entered it. This is after our first year of 1.5-degree heat rays Celsius. We're never going back. We're seeing more disastrous natural devastation, natural disasters. And we've got AI that's going to use so much electricity. It's going to burn so much coal. It's going to burn so much fossil fuels. We have cryptocurrency in America alone using more electricity in a year than the entire state of New Jersey. We're going to rein in none of that. During Donald Trump's inauguration speech, he said, drill, baby, drill, at least 3 fucking times, it felt like, taking us back somewhere we don't want to go. Anyway, energy emergency. Trump has declared a national emergency, promising to fill up oil reserves in his inaugural address. Exactly. He pulled this out of the World Health Organization this morning. Not surprising. He's been bent over a barrel by his deranged idiot followers ever since they lost their minds about the COVID virus. Diversity and gender. Yeah, he's 100% coming for trans people. He declared the United States government will only recognize 2 sexes, male and female. He's also coming for DEI. We were talking to the Humanist Report, Mike Figueredo, yesterday, and I asked him, I was like, what are you expecting from all this? Is there anything off the table? And he said, no, I think gay marriage might be on the chopping block in some red states. I think it's going to come to that. I think we might see an overturning of Obergefell. I think we might see Donald Trump's fascist, evangelical, right wing, partisan justice system, the Supreme Court, say, we don't think it is a right to get married to whoever you love in this country anymore. And it won't be about adult freedoms, and it won't be about, the right to choose and, oh, we're just concerned about children anymore. No, it'll be like, we want to project and demand you submit to our value system. Okay. It's going to be a real pivot. Donald Trump referenced God a lot during his inauguration address, and I don't think that's a coincidence, guys. They are going to try and bring back a lot of these puritanical value sets, and we got to make sure that we're vigilant, and we got to make sure that we are on our toes. Obviously, Trump signed the executive order postponing TikTok, being pulled from American users for 75 days. What I think is crazy is so many people are giving this as like a W for Donald Trump. He still wants them to sell. He's still making them sell. He has the exact same position as Joe Biden. Neither of them are woke. Neither of them are interested in having a real grown-up relationship with the nation of China. None of them respect the users of this country to make their own decisions. None of them care about you at all, frankly. It's a matter of where they want your data to go and if they want it to be monopolized by US tech companies or not. Frankly, at this point, China has all of our data too. And we act like we're such enemies to China. They buy all of our shit. We need China. So, anyway, that's been a whole LARP. Oh, yeah. He pardoned 1,600 of his supporters who were arrested in the riot at the U.S. Capitol in 2021. Trump has repeatedly referred to those arrested in the riot as hostages. At least 600 were charged with assaulting or impeding federal officers. And these are the people that love the pigs. They love the fucking cops. It's crazy. He commuted sentences of Oath Keepers and Proud Boys. He he had some government reform executive orders. It's crazy. Vivek Ramaswamy was already fired from Doge. He got fired from Doge before Donald Trump was even sworn in. He was like, why don't you go and run for Senate of Ohio, Vivek? Why don't you run and be governor of Ohio, Vivek? Do something else. Do something else, please. Get away from Doge. Elon Musk has to pay hundreds of millions of dollars a month, I would imagine, to keep his proximity and, goodwill with Donald Trump. Trump has signed a directive creating the Department of Government Efficiency, a new advisory body cutting government costs. It is expected to be led by Elon Musk, who Trump separately said would get in office for about 20 employees. Big boy, Elon, you're going to be great. You're going to go in an office over there. It's going to be in Washington State, all the way over there. Seattle, Elon, you know it, you love it. Go to Seattle. I'll be in Mar-a-Lago, far away. Freeze on federal hiring. Another order halts any new federal hiring except within the U.S. military and several other categories until the Trump administration has full control over the government. Trump has signed a memorandum mandating that federal workers must work in the office and are not allowed to work from home. Bullshit. Another directive order restoration of freedom of speech and preventing government censorship. He says as he's about to fucking ban TikTok in 75 days if the fucking Americans don't buy it from China. Political prosecution. Another executive order seeks to end the weaponization of government against political adversaries. It mandates a review of the work of various law enforcement and intelligence agencies under Biden to identify any instances of alleged weaponization and then recommend appropriate remedial actions. Interesting. Reversing Biden's policies on Cuba. Trump wants to undo Biden's recent decision to remove Cuba from the U.S. list of state sponsors of terrorism. He could also reinstate sanctions on Venezuela. Both countries were frequent targets of his ire during the first administration. That's crazy, dude. We need to normalize relations with Cuba so bad. Nobody of the younger generation gives a single fuck about it. To be honest, we were in the wrong 99.9% of the time. And I think we have to just take it on the chin and really try and reestablish a better relationship, not just with Cuba, but with Venezuela, with Russia, with China. This is the future, guys. And the more that we lean into this old school tough guy bullshit, it's not going to work for us. Okay. This is the era of diplomacy. Okay. We need to start. We have a global economy now, like it or not. We have to start negotiating with everyone. We have to start normalizing relations with everyone. We have to try and maintain peaceful diplomatic relationships with everyone so we can use the rising tides to lift all boats, and also so that we can tackle climate change as a globe, because it doesn't matter if the United States does it alone. I believe we should put our best foot forward and be leaders on climate change because we have undoubtedly contributed more than any other nation to the carbon the carbon release and the fossil fuels and all that jazz. But we can't do it alone. We need India, we need China, we need Russia, we need these other countries to follow suit with us. And we can only get them to participate if we normalize relations. As part of a directive reversing Biden era politics, Trump would revoke a mandate that federal workers must be vaccinated with the COVID vaccine. This he did during the fucking inauguration speech. He has promised to reinstate the 80,000 or the 8,000 military service members who were discharged due to the Pentagon's COVID vaccine mandate with full back pay. He talks about tackling inflation, which he's not going to do. He's going to do a bunch of stupid shit like renaming the Gulf of Mexico Gulf of America, which is just so shameful, guys. It's just so low. It's just so, are you kidding me? And Mount Denali, I didn't even realize what the fuck that was. It was, I guess, at one point in American history called Mount McKinley. And then under Barack Obama, he changed it back to Mount Denali because he was taking a ton of heat for Standing Rock. And he was taking a lot of heat for, offshore drilling up in Alaska and all this kind of stuff. He was like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll rename it the indigenous name, right? That'll take some heat off my back and I won't actually have to do anything that pisses off Chevron. So anyway, that was Obama's tactic. What Trump has not acted on yet is tariffs, secret document, crypto pile. And that is where I wanted to end today's little nugget with the most brazen crime of Donald Trump's presidency so far. And that's this Trump coin guy. And I know a lot of people have talked about it. I'm going to keep talking about it. We have to talk about it. This is how people domestically are going to bribe Donald Trump. That's how Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos are going to have Donald Trump's ear. They're going to shamelessly pump it to the public using their government platforms, which is 100% against the law, definitely after the 2012 Stock Act, but even most likely before then. Okay. Donald Trump now has 89% of his net worth. It's all paper, it's all fiction, it's all bullshit, it's all hokum. But that's all Donald Trump cares about because he just likes having the idea in the back of his head that he's super rich. Look at this number. It says I am worth billions and billions and billions. And this is probably the closest he's ever been in the 21st century to being an authentic billionaire, right? But anyway, what we have to talk about is the fact that this is an insane crime. This should be against the law. You should not have a president that is profiting directly off of being the president. You shouldn't profit off of being the president at all. I'm from Missouri. We've had one president from Missouri, and his name was Harry Truman, and he was a real mixed bag, mostly a bad guy. I'll be real. I totally disagree with his decision to drop the atomic bombs. I disagree with his decisions a lot of the time. I think we should have gone with that guy, Henry Wallace. But beggars can't be choosers. He's the only president from my state, and he did one good thing that I always remember. I was talking to Thomas Frank, the author, one time, and he told me this. And he said, "Do you know what Harry Truman did when he left the White House after finishing his second term?" And I said, "No, I haven't the foggiest idea what happened with Harry Truman after he finished his second term. Couldn't really care less." He was like, "I hear you, but he went back and lived in his mother in law's house because he hadn't saved a dime during the time that he'd been president because he hadn't made terribly much money and it had all gone during the time that he'd worked over those, years as president. He'd given it to his children, given it to whomever, bought himself things, right? It wasn't a position that he got into to enrich himself. And I just think about how far we've gotten from that, right? Kyle Kalinske used to love to talk about how Jimmy Carter sold his peanut farm before he ran for president because he didn't want to be seen as having a conflict of interest or being tethered to one group and unable to relate to another group as a result to his financial situation. And just look at us now. Obviously, there's always been financial corruption in this country. There's that famous Dazed and Confused line about the bicentennial. It's like, don't forget what you're celebrating, a bunch of aristocratic white males who didn't want to pay their taxes. So there's always been that thing in America, right? But it's never been brazen like this. It's never been as out in the open as this. And I'm actually pretty nervous for where this will lead us, guys, because Donald Trump is going to do absolutely nothing to regulate cryptocurrency now, because that would be regulating his own wealth, which he sure shit will not do. And it's going to allow people like Mohammed bin Salman. It's going to allow people like Benjamin Netanyahu. It's going to allow people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos to manipulate Donald Trump by making him richer and richer and richer. And that's insanely criminal. So that was our nothing burger for today. Really appreciate everybody. I know it was a little bit of a long one, but there was a lot to cover. You are now fully versed in Donald Trump's day one executive orders. Hit that like button if you can. Check us out on the main show, The Vanguard. I'm Zach. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Peace out.